Yo, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're gonna work on a car that I have worked on before, but I've never done air suspension on a Camaro SS. And that's exactly what we're gonna be doing in this video today. I have done 370Zs, G37, G35, Q60, pretty much all the Nissan Infiniti platform, but I have never done a Camaro. And I'm really excited about it, and I'm kind of somewhat nervous about it, but I have read the instructions and it seems like a pretty straightforward process. It does need a little bit more drilling versus like the 370Z and the 350Z, but it should be pretty simple from what I've seen. But I will go through everything with you guys. If you're interested in doing this, if you have a Camaro, this will be a very detailed video for you because I was trying to find videos on this and I could not find any at all. So let me show you everything that you need. I'm going to go over all the parts, how to set everything up. That way this helps you guys out. But let's go ahead and go over to the tank really quick. All right, so starting off with the tank, everything that you need in order to ensure that this is going to work appropriately without any issues, and they have all the items that you need in order to, you know, air up your car, air up your tank, all that stuff. Now right here you can see that I already have my trunk set up for this car. I took out the mat, measured it out to see where I wanted everything, where it's not going to hit stuff, and to make sure there's good clearance. So right now you can see that this setup only has one compressor, which is this one right here. I have my management right here mounted to the board. I have it connected over there on the side, and then the water trap is going to go to the back over here. Usually I connect the water trap directly to the tank, but they didn't provide any fittings for that in this case, so I will have to do it on the side. And then this side over here, I plug up the holes. So you want to plug up any holes that you have on the tank that you're not going to be using. That way air doesn't get out. And you have to use Teflon tape on every single fitting on the tank. For example, right here, right here, right here as well, right there. So every single fitting that has thread requires Teflon tape. So here in the back, I have the water trap. I'm going to be mounting this something like this to the back of the car. That way it stays like that. Like I said, usually I like to have it directly to the tank. That way it's sturdy and it stays like that. But in this case, they didn't provide me the hardware that I needed for that. So we're going to have to do it like this. How you want the water trap to sit is straight down like this. It cannot be angled. It cannot be sideways like this. The reason is because the water needs to drip down from the system, which is this right here at the bottom. It has a hole, so over time, if there's any water buildup, it'll just drip down to the ground. And if you have it sideways, it's not going to do its job. So it's going to keep water in there and most likely get into the management, which is not good for the management. Now, as for the compressor, as you can see, it's just mounted right here. And the lines I have right here in the back, I made a hole where it's going to go down. Now, for the lines, these go connected to the harness directly. And I'll show you guys how I'm going to do that on the car once we have it and we put it all together. And then the water trap, this line, one is going to go to the tank directly, and then the other one is going to go to the tank fitting on this, which is a T. E is for exhaust, and then the rest of them are front right, front left, rear right, things like that. That way you can connect it. And then this top one right here is the main connection to the harness. So that's the trunk setup. I purchased it from my local Home Depot. It's just a wood piece, 24 by 24 inches. Right there you can see everything mounted up. Made my holes for everything. That way it's secure and doesn't fall off. So that's that. You can make your setup however you want it, but the most important thing, of course, is the water trap to be facing down. And the compressor does get hot, so you want to have it away from things where it can burn them. You don't want to have your compressor touching the airlines because it's going to melt them. So that's the trunk setup, a brief overview. Now let's go over to the suspension. So here is the suspension. This is from maxlord, which I haven't heard from, but I guess it's one of the main distributors for air suspension. And a lot of people just, from what I've learned, is they purchase from this company and they just rename it or rebrand it as their own company. So that was pretty interesting. But it's your standard strut, but it has a plate at the top which has camber adjustability. Now, I did go ahead and do a lot of research on this to ensure that I am installing this correctly and not the wrong way, because I could not find a lot of information on exactly how the plate is supposed to go on the top. Now, this steel line right here comes with the kit. You need to install it directly to the bag. As you can see right there, I added a little bit of Teflon tape. And then depending on your fitting size, you should install that on the end right here. As you can see, I installed my Teflon tape and then the fitting, and we have 1/4 lines, which are the smaller ones. And you need to ensure that every single line that you have for your setup is 1/4, including the manifold. They should be 1/4 lines. If something is a 3/8, which is a larger size, it's going to be bad, and you will have to get a fitting that is the correct size, because then you won't be able to connect your airline to that fitting. For example, you can't put 1/4 line onto a 3/8 fitting, vice versa. Can't put a 3/8 line on a 1/4 fitting. It just doesn't work. It's not the same size. So that's one thing that you have to check on these type of suspension setups, because that is the biggest issue that I constantly see on any setup anytime that I'm doing air suspension. They always send the wrong fitting sizes. Something is just not included in the kit, and you have to buy it, look for it, whatever you have to do, reach out to them to get that fitting that you need. In this case, I already checked everything. Everything's good. All the fittings are the right sizes, including the rear ones. Now, these are the front ones, of course. So this is gonna sit, for example, on this side. This is a 370Z, of course, not the same, but the strut would go in on that front strut right there, like this. Now, the camber plate right here, you're gonna have it facing with the third strut forward, like this. I did a lot of research on this to make sure I was doing it correctly, and that's how it's supposed to sit. And you have to drill the top holes of the Camaro with a drill bit, of course. And I think that's going to be like the most difficult part of this whole install, is drilling out the top piece. But we'll see how sturdy the frame is of the car, because I know on the 370Z I have a very hard time drilling out the top portion of the strut. So we'll see how the Camaro is. I looked at the guides and everything, and it all says that the bolt, the third one, should be sticking out, towards the outer part of the car. I think it's called outboard, is what they refer to it on the instructions. And it has 2 screws that go right in there that mount up to the bracket right here. Now, the rear strut is going to be, I'm not sure if it's going to be complicated, but this one right here, very straightforward. It has the fitting right there at the bottom as well. Again, make sure it's the right size. We need 1/4, so this is a 1/4 fitting. The bottom standard just has a knuckle right there to mount it, and then you have this at the top. This comes somewhat tight, not super tight from factory when they put it in the box, but you need to remove all of these screws right here in order to remove this plate. As you can see, it's already moving. And what you have to do is you have to grab your factory plate mounting point, whatever it's called, on the rear of the Camaro. You have to remove that, cut out the welds to, separate it, and then you got to reuse the portion that mounts up to this right here. From what I read in the instructions, you got to cut out, I think it was 6 welds on it to separate it, and then push out the bushing. So now let's go ahead and jump over to the point where we get the Camaro, and if I missed anything, I will talk about it at that point and show you guys exactly what I'm gonna do. Alright guys, so the Camaro is here. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the garage. That way it's not, that hot outside once the sun comes out, because it's like 7 in the morning right now. But it actually looks really good, and it sounds really nice as well. I kind of wish my M45 sounded like that, because it's like loud, but not like super loud. So when you're driving down the street, it's like quiet. When you press on it, it actually sounds really good, and it sounds nice and loud. So I'll see his exhaust right now, how it looks, and then I might try to mimic something like that for the M45, because that's what I'm kind of looking for. But let me go ahead and turn the Camaro on, and then we're gonna go ahead and put it inside and move the Z outside, of course, that way we can fit the Camaro inside. The Camaro is now in the garage, and as you guys can hear, the car sounds really good. Like, I kind of wish the M45 would sound like that. So we'll look at the exhaust right now once we get under there and we start running the lines. But right now, I think the most complicated part is going to be installing the struts. I have an idea of how I want to do the trunk setup already. So this thing doesn't stay up, so I need to get something to put on there. But we need to go ahead and remove these right here, and then we gotta drill out holes right there in the front. I'll show you guys right now once I remove that side. I already took that side off so I could see like what I was gonna have to work with, and it seems pretty straightforward, but we'll see right now once we actually start like cutting into it. You have this piece in the back of the Camaro, and I believe it's either, yeah, I think it's just like this in the trunk. And we're gonna go ahead and cut a hole right here, and the reason for that is so we can go ahead and run the lines through there so it can go up into the trunk setup, so it's kind of hidden. I don't want to leave it exposed because it's not gonna look really good, but that's my plan with this. Let me go ahead and show you the trunk. We're gonna go ahead and cut the plastic piece, that way we can run the lines through here, and then it's gonna go through the back, and then we're gonna run it to the front so it can connect to the manifold right here. He's gonna have a lot of space because the tank sits like in the back and his compressor is like right here, so it's gonna look really good in that area. The battery is right here, which makes it so much easier to be able to connect everything. And then you need to connect the pink fuse, and there's actually some fuses right here on this side that we're gonna connect to. So the wiring is gonna be like the easiest part of this install, which I'm really glad that they actually put the battery in the back instead of putting it in the front. It actually gives the motor a lot more room in the front. If you guys didn't see already, it has a lot more room, and that's what I really like about this right here, that they put the battery in the back, but you don't have a spare tire, which kind of sucks. Alright, so here's an update of how everything is wired up. I already connected this portion right here. The pink fuse is gonna go right there, and I'm gonna test it out to see if it works on that one right there where it's at, but it's on the middle left side. And then we're gonna put this cover back on. Looks like it fits without any problems. But what I do in order to separate the wire is I have one of these. It works really good. I'll try to do it with one of these right here, but like that. And then it pulls it just like that, so it separates it for you, makes it a lot easier. So I highly recommend getting one of these. And then right here we're just gonna connect this directly to the compressor. It has this little extra fitting right here for the other compressor, but he only has one, so we'll just be using that. But these right here for the front, they're gonna connect to the battery directly. The black one is gonna go to this terminal right here. We're just gonna remove this, place it on there, and then on this side, same thing, remove that and place it on there. And then here is the red one. So the red one has a fuse connected to it. If you open the little box, which is this one right here, it has a little green fuse in there. Well, it's not a little fuse, but it's a 30 amp fuse, which is gonna pretty much prevent this from blowing. So if something happens, the fuse will blow and it won't mess up your wiring. You need to make sure that you connect that. And then on the end we have one of these fittings that'll go to the red one. And then I have one of these connected right here. I have to heat it up, and it's gonna shrink this on the sides, and then I'm gonna add some electrical tape around it to seal it up. That's pretty much it. I connected it right there. I think what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna go ahead and test it and make sure it works. The only thing that's not gonna work is gonna be the compressor for right now, but as long as it turns on, then I know it's working. So we're gonna go ahead and connect the manifold and then test it really quick. Alright, so here's everything connected with the exception of the compressor. But right here we have the manifold connected. This is connected right there. This is connected right there. And then it's connected right to the middle. And it does work because the controller turned on automatically, but we do not want that to happen. We only want it to turn on when the engine is on. It's leaving it on all the time instead of only turning on when the car is on. So we're gonna have to switch that out. So let's go ahead and test out another one where it only works when the car is on the on position. Alright, so we ran into a little problem. All of those fuses that are right there keep the controller on, which is not something that we really want. So we're not going to be able to use these fuses right here. We're going to have to go ahead and move the fuse, most likely over here. I'm going to test a few of these out to see which one works, but as of right now I haven't tested any of these. I'm not going to put the wire in just yet because there's this side. If none of these work, we're gonna have to move to the engine bay where there's another fuse box. So here's the other location. It's really easy to get to, you just gotta pop it off. Usually I like to look at the panel to see, you know, what's there and what each fuse is for. That way we can figure out exactly where we want to put our connector at. Alright, so another update. I tried every single one of these fuses and all of them kept turning the controller on. So I went ahead and just kept going until I could finally find a fuse that's gonna work. And bad news is that I could only find one, and it's in the front of the engine bay. So this one right here is the ignition number 15, and it's a 5 amp fuse, and that's the only one that I could really use in order to only have the controller turn on when the car turns on. So every other fuse, I tried all of these other ones and none of them worked like I really wanted it to. So the sucky thing now is that I have to go ahead and run this wire, technically most likely through this side right here up to the top in here. So I hope there's a grommet right there that I could just run it through, or a hole somewhere. But yeah, that's what we're running into right now. So this kind of sucks for those of you that don't want to run the wire inside all the way to the front. You're gonna have to do it because the rest of them just keep turning the controller on. Alright, so I went ahead and removed this strut already. I'm only focusing on this one for right now because I only have one strap, and I'm using the strap to hold up the entire control arm and everything, because if you just leave it, it's gonna fall down and you're gonna mess up your brake lines. And you wanna make sure that they're not being held up or, you know, putting any strain on them, because you're gonna mess them up. This was kind of difficult to remove right here. Good thing is that they have this on the side, which made it a lot easier. Put a 7mm socket right on this end, and then use a 15 to, you know, turn the bolt or the nut, and then that'll pop right off. But I had to remove the whole assembly. Just remove the top bolt right here. I started drilling out my holes right there, as you can see. And then remove these. I use a 25mm socket. Came right off with an open-ended wrench. And yeah, but this is really holding it up. You need to make sure you use that because it's just gonna fall straight down flat on its face. But now we're drilling this out. I use my own template that I made, because this right here, I mean, you can't really remove them because I already pressed them in. You could, but you gotta, you know, hit them out. But I made my own template and I made my hole, so I know exactly where it's gonna sit at. So it should sit right there. And then here's my template. I just grabbed a piece of cardboard, put it right on top, so it's exactly the same. And then now I can drill out my holes exactly to where I want it. So that should be pretty perfect right there. It's pretty straight. Use I guess a star hit or something, hit it with a hammer. That way it makes a dent in there, so it's easier to drill out. Start off with a small drill bit and then move your way up. Right now I started with my smallest one right there. And then I'm moving up until, I think it said until the 3/16, or it might have been a different size, but I'll double check and I'll confirm so you guys know which one it is. I know I read the manual and they said that there was a specific number on there that you need to go up to. So yeah, I'll continue to drill this out and then we'll see how it fits once we finish this. I think it's a 3/8 because this is a 5/16. Yeah, this is a 5/16. This is a 3/8 and it's bigger, so I think it's a 3/8 that you need to go up to. So next size is this one right here. Here is this side now installed. Right there you guys can see that it fit perfect, honestly. And this part right here, the camber, I just put it all the way to this side. He's gonna have to get an alignment and adjust it to where he wants it. And then here you can see how it looks. And then now we just gotta drill something on this right here, where we can have it sitting like right there. That way it's not all loose and it's mounted to something. Could even put it like that. I'm not sure yet how I'm gonna do that part, but it has to be mounted so it doesn't move around. And then we just gotta tighten these, but all the brackets are on there really good. And then this right here, I have to get it up there to attach it. It's not that far off, but I gotta get it up there. I think I'm gonna have to use my jack to move it up, but we'll see right now. I just drilled out the holes on the other side. Right there. Alright, and then I'm using my jack in order to jack it up into these holes right here. You know, once I have it aligned, then I just put one of these in there. That way it holds it up for me, and then I can take the strap off. The strap just kind of push it back, so you have to loosen the strap as well as you push the strut up. That way you can align it perfectly. So I'm just gonna keep pushing it. So see right there, like it's pushing it all the way back. So now I gotta loosen the straps. Now that I loosen the strap and move forward a little bit. Okay, there you go. It's getting there. And there you go. There's one in. Should I get the other one in as well? Alright, so quick update on how I am running the wires is I went ahead and pushed it through a hole that was right there. As you can see, it's coming through. And then I opened like a little slot, and then I ran it down, and then I tucked it in under this right here, going all the way down. And then there's gonna be a grommet right up there that you can access through this right here. And it's kind of difficult, I'm not gonna lie, but you can see that there's a wire right there. That one's going to that hole, and I just put a metal wire, or this is just like a hanger that you would use for like your clothes, and I cut it and then I wrapped it through here, made a hole, and then pulled it through. So right now I'm just pulling it forward. And then what I'm gonna do with this pink wire is I'm gonna run this wire to the front right here and connect it to the fuse that we talked about earlier. And then this airline we're gonna run right there through that hole at the bottom, and that's gonna lead to the bottom right here. And then we're gonna run the airline behind this piece right here so it's secure. And then we're gonna put something right there so we can secure the line on there as well so it doesn't move around. So I got that one figured out. Now the other side, I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna do it, because I think I did see a grommet, but I'm gonna have to look on the other side to make sure there's one that I can access really easily. I just need to run one airline over there, and that's it for that side. And then there's a hole like right at the bottom. You guys kind of see there's one right here too. Down there, there's one on the other side as well that I can access in order to run another airline through that side. Then the front ones will be done, and now I just gotta work on the rear ones. But yeah, that's it when it comes to this. I'm gonna try to figure out where I can run this pink line, because I don't see any holes. Yeah, I could run it through here. So there's a hole right here that I can run, put the line through there, and then attach it to this so it goes all the way down. As for the driver's side line, I ran it right through that red wire right there. That's actually like the main power source. You can see it's right here, it's the positive. So I just ran it through there. I had to make a hole right above it. You have to be careful because that is the main power source, so you don't want to mess that line up. So I was honestly really careful when I made a little hole right there to get the line through. And then it's going through there. And it leads right there, and I just ran it behind there. And I'm gonna go ahead and drill out a little bracket right here so the line can sit like that and doesn't move around. But that's it when it comes to this side. This is pretty much done. The other side is done as well. Now we gotta do the rear. Alright, so now we're at this point. We gotta remove the bushing on the other top hat right there for the rear. I already removed one. Now how I did it, I went ahead and drilled it out with my drill right there. And there's the bushing. And I just made holes all over the outer part, and then I was able to smash it out. I don't have a press, so I couldn't do it that way, but this is actually pretty simple when I use the drill, and it's pretty fast. And now we just got to remove these welds right here. As you can see, I already started working my way around a few of them, but the wheel that I have started getting hot and overheated, and it kind of stopped working for a bit, so I still have to remove some of the welds quite a bit. You can see that it's still like attached, so it's gonna take some time, but I was more concerned about the bushing, how I was gonna get it out, but after drilling a bunch of holes on it, it came out pretty easy. So now we just got to do that with the other one, and then also remove the welds on that one. Removing the strut itself was actually pretty simple. You just have a bolt right here in the front that you got to remove, another one right in the middle, and then you got to remove this first, but make sure you jack the car up on the back end. That way it's a lot easier to remove it. If one side is down, it's going to make it a little bit harder to be able to remove the sway bar link right here. And then other than that, I think that's all you really need to do. Well, except for the bolt cycle at the top right there, they're 15 mils. The bottom ones, I think the middle one was a 21 mil, and the one over here was an 18 mil. All right, so here's where I'm at on the rears. As you can see, I've done a lot of cutting on the sides, and I'm barely separating it. I used my Dremel, this one right here, to cut along the seams, go all the way around. I was using a larger one over there, that one right there, but I felt like I wasn't doing the job correctly. It was just kind of going like around it instead of like the seam exactly, because this one's a lot smaller. I was getting it like right on that corner, so I think this worked a lot better. But then I grabbed one of my chisels and I went in on the side, and now you can see it separating it. It did take me a while, I'm not even gonna lie. I think I spent an hour just doing this part, even more than an hour. But I'm gonna go ahead and start going away at the rest of it. I do have a few more chisels, so I think I'll put another one right there so I can begin separating it. Alright guys, so right now we're heading to Home Depot. We're gonna pick up a plate for the grinder that's made for cutting metal. I tried using my Dremel, and then I also tried using another one that was made out of metal, so it wasn't really working very well. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick up this item because I've honestly been struggling for the past, I think it's 5 hours trying to get this plate removed. And hopefully with this cutter, it makes it a lot easier, because man, I've been struggling. I got really tired. I was trying to remove that top plate from the rear of the strut. So let me go ahead and head over there. Well, I'll pick it up and I'll show you guys what I got, see if it makes it easier. It should, because it's specifically made for cutting metal. Alright, with the grinder and the new flywheel, we were finally able to get it off. And here is the final result of how it looks. I used the flywheel to go ahead and like sand it down to make it smooth, that way there's no sharp edges. But I guess the main reason that you're removing that bottom portion is because this is too low, so it's gonna hit the airbag. As you can see right there, it'll hit it, cause damage to it, most likely mess it up. But this is the aftermath. With it installed from the top, there you can see the Allen keys put in place, holding it down. And at the bottom right there, sitting flush. I believe this is the passenger side, so we're gonna go ahead and install this one. Just so you guys kind of have an idea of how I got the top plate off with the grinder, I just went on the sides and I would keep going at the edges, cutting it at an angle. That way it could separate the plate, and then that way we can remove it. So that's how I kept doing it. The chisels actually did help out a lot, because once it got really close to like breaking, I would hammer the chisel in on the edge, and then it would pop it right up. So I would highly recommend getting chisels if you don't have any. But yeah, this is the last bag. Let's go ahead and throw this back on, and we'll see if everything works. Now the very last thing to do is run all of our wires to be able to connect it to our manifold. Alright guys, so everything is now connected. Here's the airbag installed, and then we have the bolts back in. I just use my jack to lift it up, I would first do the sway bar link right here, because if you don't, it's going to be too high and you're not going to be able to push it in. So just make sure you do that first. It also makes it easier to have both of the sway bar links off at the same time. So when you put one in, it adjusts itself and it goes into that position as well on this end. If you just do one and you have like the wheel on the floor already, it's going to make it really, really difficult. So just keep that in mind. Other than that, we just got to tighten these right here. And then we got to go ahead and do the compressor, connect that all up, and then trunk. But I run the lines to this grommet right here. There you go. So I run the lines to that grommet. I put them through here, over the subframe, right over there, over here. That way it doesn't get in the way of anything. It won't hit anything. It'll be fine in this location. You don't want to put the lines next to any heat at all, because they will melt. Even in hot days in the summer in Arizona, if you leave the line outside and it's touching something, it will melt it and then it'll create a hole. So just keep that in mind. And then also what you want to do is, if you want the car to be loud when it airs out, make sure you put one line outside extra. Have the line right there and down. I found these little holes right there, so I just ran it through there. That way the line doesn't get out of place. Gotta tighten those. The last thing I gotta figure out is connecting the compressor. So I think I'm gonna make a hole like right here on this plastic piece, so I could run it through up there like this, and then I can just connect it to the top of the board and then hide the line down, making another hole to the board that I purchased for the compressor and everything. Everything else is connected already. I just gotta put the ground back on. Everything will work. That was for this right here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab each line. I'm gonna put some tape around it, and I'm gonna letter it by what it's supposed to be. So for example, this one right here, this is my exhaust, so I'm gonna letter this E, and then the one up in the front over there, that is my front right, so I'm gonna number that FR and so forth. That way it's easy for me to connect it. Right here in the manifold, it tells you what each one is. So on the left side you have FL for front left, front right, rear right, tank, and then exhaust. Let's go ahead and start putting tape around these, and then we'll start running them through so we can start connecting it to the manifold, and we can go ahead and test it. Now we're in the final stages. We just gotta connect this right here. Well, I already connected it, but we gotta heat it up so it can shrink. All right, there you guys can see that it's like open, but as soon as you apply heat to it with like a heat gun, it'll begin to shrink it. And just like that, we got to do that to the other one over here as well. And then I'm going to add electrical tape around it, just in case. You don't need to, but I just like to add it. And that's it. Now we just got to connect the battery, connect the manifold, and then we'll test it out to see if everything works. Alright, moment of truth. Everything is now installed. I just need to make sure the compressor works, but everything should be good. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Okay, the controller turned on, so that's good already. We can actually test it from this angle right here. I hope it's working already. We're good. Alright. When you first turn on the controller, it's going to ask you to calibrate it, which it's doing right now. You only want to do that when the car is completely on the ground and it's free of obstructions, which means that nothing's in the way of the car. So everything's good right now. I think it's actually a pretty good ride height. It doesn't look like it can go any higher than this for some reason, but I think it's because of the type of bag that the car has. But right now it's adjusting itself, checking everything. and then we'll go for a test drive. Everything should be torqued down already, so we should be good to go. No, this shit looks so clean. Yo, back Camaros look pretty sick. I kind of wish the front went a little lower. It has a little bit of adjustability in the front, but it's not much if I'm being honest with you. So it still looks pretty sick. The rear looks really low, I will say that, but the front may need some adjustment. But I lifted the factory specs because that's what's recommended, but it still looks pretty good. I'm gonna clean up the trunk setup. This is gonna be mounted like right in the middle, and on those lines I was gonna push them back, but I kind of can't for the front ones because right in the front over there and it's zip tied, so I just have to cut it, make it a little bit shorter so it looks nice and clean. Alright, I just gotta drive in now to make sure everything's good. There you go, guys. The Camaro is now bagged and actually has really good ride quality. It felt really nice. I did hear a little bit of clunking in the back, but I think that's honestly because if you think about it, the rear bushing was taken out, so it's no longer rubber and now has a solid bushing, so you will hear some clunking here and there in the back, and that's completely normal because of that. But this Camaro looks really sick. I really like it a lot. I've actually always been a fan of Chevrolet. My family, especially my dad, he loves Chevrolet. He's had a Silverado C10, older one, and I've actually wanted a Camaro too as well in the past, and that was going to be one of my options before getting the Z. It was going to be a Camaro like this one or like a Z, but I found a better deal on the Z, so I picked that up. Nonetheless, this is a pretty cool car. It is huge though, like the inside itself is big and it's a heavy car. There's a feather right here, but let me go ahead and air it out for you guys. You can actually connect it to your phone as well, but this is his controller, so I don't want to connect it to mine. I'll have him do that. There you go. It could actually go a little bit lower in the back. One thing you should never do is never put your air suspension at 0. Always have at least 1 PSI in there. Not even 1, maybe like 5 at least. Okay, yeah, it is actually pretty low. That looks so sick. Sheesh. Yo, I'm not gonna lie, I really like this a lot. I think the Camaro in general, this one specifically, looks really sick. The front doesn't sit that low. It still has about maybe 2 inches off the ground, but you can tell just by looking at the side skirt that it's pretty close to the floor already. I think the side skirt maybe has like 1 inch. But it's actually kind of good that the front sits a little bit higher, that way he doesn't hit like bumps or anything. But you've got to admit, that looks really sick. Alright guys, so I was going to conclude the video. I will say that the hardest part was the rear. I thought the front was going to be more complicated, but the rear honestly took me forever. I think I spent 5 hours just on one thing. But if you get the blade that I got, it's really going to help you out a lot. I will say that he has to get an alignment though for sure for his front because of those camera plates. I adjusted it all the way to the outer side. So like if I'm standing on this side of the car, I pushed it all the way over here for the camera plate. And it actually looks pretty straight. And it was actually riding really good as well right now. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I think I went over everything in the video, if I'm being honest with you. I already talked about the fuses, where you want to connect it, and yeah, it looks really sick. I'm really happy with this install. It took me a while, but overall it looks really sick. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.